Hello, this is Kaveh.
And hi, this is Bita.
Today we are going to talk about the study of language, the book, The Study of Language. Bita, can you tell us a little about it?
Yes, this book talks about different aspects of linguistics in different chapters, and we are going to start with the first chapter today.
And with all respects to Professor George Yule, and we are going to focus on the seventh edition of this book. The first chapter starts with
The origin of language.
wonderful. We believe this book is very practical and it gives some valuable information to us language learners, and that's why we have chosen this book. I have heard this book is considered a university book for people who major in master's and bachelor's degree. So that's why we are focusing on this book. Bita, let's start with the divine source, the divine source of language. What does it say?
Well, the divine source is mostly talking about the religion. In most of the religions, people think that there is a divine source for language, which means there is a person or a thing which provides people with a specific source for language learning, and it's mostly religious.
So here we have the biblical tradition, the background of the divine source theory. The biblical tradition says, according to the book of Genesis, God created Adam and everything else along with him. And so, based on this one, we believe that God created the language. Here it says about the other tradition, the Hindu tradition, Bita. What does it say?
It says the wife of Brahma is credited with bringing language to humanity, and as we mentioned before, in most languages they think that there is someone who provides people with language.
I see. The divine source who provides human with language. I think that's an easy uh, uh, excuse, or that's a very available cause if we want to consider this theory amongst the other theory. I believe whatever human doesn't know anything about, he or she connects it to some unachievable source, the divine source. Bita, here when he says they have done some tests and experiments, can you tell me about that one?
Yes, actually, they had different experiments on this, and we can say that in the results there were different conflicts regarding these experiments. In addition to that, we can say that the basic hypothesis of these experiments was that if human infants were left alone with no one speaking a language around them, they could be able to reach that spontaneous language and finally speak the God-given language. So these experiments were done to see if that's correct or not.
Well, that's interesting because it's like this: you expose an infant with nothing and nothing and nothing. So somehow keep them both away from the society and
Yes.
away from the normal human lifestyle,
Yes.
to allow them to allow the language to emerge in these people, to come to existence. Tell me about the Greek writer Herodotus.
Yes, the Greek writer Herodotus reported the story of Egyptian pharaoh, if I'm not wrong about the pronunciation of its name, which was done 2,500 years ago, I think. They had two newborn babies and left them alone, except with a shepherd and some goats. And finally, they wanted to see if they can speak or not. And they said that they are uttering a word, which is bekos or bekos. I don't know the pronunciation of that word again. But I think if we remove the second part of that word, the first part is mostly similar to be. So
Be, like the goats. Yeah, that was interesting. The KOS, the ending, if we consider this word includes two syllables.
Yes.
Be, kos or kos,
Yes.
which is the Greek version and the Greek suffix.
Yes.
All right. Maybe Herodotus added this in the Greek translation of the sound. So the KOS, when it is removed, the B sound, that's what you mean, am I right?
Yes.
The B sound remains. So, but I believe in the time, the Pharaoh said that this word belongs to a region.
Yes, I think it was Phrygian, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, they identified the language as the Phrygian word for, and they actually came to this opinion that that is the original language.
Yes, exactly.
Later, another experiment was also, I think,
King James.
yeah.
Yes.
What
He
was
did
that
the
one?
same experiment with children, and he said that they spoke Hebrew. So he finally said that this is the language of the Garden of Eden. But I don't think that's real.
Well, it's interesting that, he did the experiment and then he concluded that, but I think there are no details about it.
No,
Nothing is mentioned for that one. So actually, he wanted to forge this.
Yes.
Yeah. So he actually concluded that Hebrew is the God-given language. But later, I think a Mongol emperor, something, I think this is the most similar experiment that was done. The Mongol emperor Akbar the Great. Yeah, he, I think, arranged for two newborn babies.
They were totally in silence. No shepherd, no goats, and they didn't speak. There was no speech at all.
No speech at all. So the result was very, very, very similar to the result that scholars and scientists have achieved nowadays.
Yes, and also two other experiments were done with two other kids, we can say. One with Victor, the wild French boy, and one with Ginny, the American girl. And they had the same results. There was no spontaneous language.
So we can conclude here that without coming into contact with human speech, nothing appears.
Exactly. Yes.
Good. And there is no spontaneous language. And specifically, then here's an example. I mean, it's just a quote that has been mentioned that if human language did emanate from a divine source, we have no way of reconstructing that original language. And then we have a biblical reference here from the book of Genesis. It says, because the Lord did there confound the language of all the earth. So I think it refers to the Babylonian Tower, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So God said it, okay. That's the part that God said you better create this variety of languages in order to stop people from reaching the skies.
Exactly.
That's what it says. Good. So the divine source is finished here. What is the next theory?
The next theory is going through the natural sound. The natural sound source is the next theory, which starts with human auditory system. Human auditory system is functioning before birth, around 7 months.
Do you remember anything from that?
I'm
joking. Okay. So it's actually when the baby is in the mother's womb.
Yes.
All right. 7 months old.
Yes, exactly.
That's when the auditory system is completed.
Yes, it begins working, and later on it develops to an ability to understand the sounds in the environment and identifying them easily and making connection between the things and their sounds, which makes five different theories.
So here there is a name, if I'm not mistaken, Jesperson. I think he was in the year 1922. He was behind this theory, calling the natural sound source as the origin of language. Jesperson called a theory its bow wow theory. What is the bow wow theory?
Well, we mentioned before that the auditory system starts working before birth, so we can come to a result actually that primitive words derive from imitating the sounds in the environment. So early humans tried to do that as well. They tried to imitate the sounds in their environment to refer to the objects that weren't present. For example, they made the sound of cuckoo for birds, or bang, or splash, and sounds like that.
Well mentioned about this part, such as, to give an example, knock knock. All right. If we want to, because knock is also a verb,
Yes.
and knock knock is a noun. So we also have jokes, some jokes about it, such as knock knock, who's there? Yeah. And
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
so the point is, here he wants to say that this onomatopoeic, actually, version of the word is the origin of language. But there is a problem with that. So the soundless objects, for example, an eraser, a simple eraser, it doesn't have a sound.
No.
So it means that in the world of the people who believe the origin of language is the natural sound, there is no eraser. Right? Maybe they use other stuff. But the abstract concepts, human life without abstract concepts is like, because love and emotional attachment has actually existed. I think I don't know how long it has existed, but I think it's one of the indispensable features of a human and humanity. Therefore, love is something that it needs a word for it, if it exists, if it existed back in the time.
Yes.
So that's the problem. How about the poo-poo theory?
Yes, the next theory is poo-poo theory, which says speech developed from instinctive sounds people make in emotional circumstances. So we can say that they are some natural cries of emotion like pain, joy, anger, and sounds like yuck, ah, ooh, wow.
So
I
you
think you
mean,
can perform better than
well, I can go with oh or wow, right? But the point is, here, that's what, from what I understood, it's the actually reaction to an emotional circumstance. Is that true? So, for instance, if I see a very beautiful, actually, girl passing by, I would say, oh. So that's an emotional reaction. And about pain and anger, pain. So, ouch, the one that you mentioned. But we have the same problem as we discussed in the previous theory, the bow wow theory. There's also a problem here. What the problem is?
Well, we don't do this in our ordinary talk because when we have these kinds of reactions, we have an intake of breath rather than having having a kind of exhalation or breathing out. So, it's opposite of ordinary talk. There is no breathing out. So,
But here I have a little question. You're right. For example, for the word yuck, all right?
yes.
Or maybe my pronunciation is a little bit exaggerated because it's not set in the context. But what I'm trying to say, for example, This is not breathing out. This is not breathing in. This is breathing out. So that does not necessarily actually. I believe in the fact that for speaking, 90% of the time we exhale, we don't inhale. But this sound is an exception, I believe, here. So, to actually put it in a nutshell, we can say this theory does not work because the emotional reaction to a circumstance normally happens with an inhale.
Yes.
However, speaking happens when we are exhaling. Is that true?
Yes.
Good. So far, two theories: the divine source and the natural sound source. Natural sound source includes two subcategories, which are.
First one is the bow wow theory, and the second one, poo poo theory.
Thank you. Now, let's move on to the next one. When was the last time your boyfriend sang a love song for you?
I don't remember, something like that.
It's the musical source. What is the relation of musical source to the history of the actually, origin of language?
Well, the fun fact is that before humans could produce words or utter some words, they could produce a wide range of sounds. So I think producing sounds was an easier one, or it was more possible for them. As we see in infants too, there is a prolonged period in early infants. First, let's consider their parents and the children. First, they have an interaction with single sounds, and later on they make it more extended using sound sequences, which makes intonation, and it becomes a nonverbal communication. And there was a quote from Darwin about this nonverbal communication. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, well, this quote says that before the invention of language, human beings needed to communicate with each other. And if back in the time they couldn't or they didn't have the ability to verbally communicate with each other, they needed to express their mutual emotions. All right? These emotions could be maybe a romantic, actually, a romantic expression of a concept, saying that I love you, or showing, or sounding, I'd say, sounding. So that's why they wanted to charm each other. That's how actually they wanted to do so. So Charles Darwin says that the emotional aspect of language evolved, actually prompted this communicative aspect of language by the tools that our early ancestors had, and they had the gift of sound. So based on that, musically, they could show their emotions and attachments to each other.
Yes.
Can you believe that?
No. I can't imagine early humans.
Early humans, yeah. Well, the image we have from early humans, they're sitting around fire with bones in their hair, and the animal skin on their, as they use it as clothes. All right.
They wanted to charm each other, and they used musical notes.
Well, back in the time, I think this charming worked different. Nowadays, you can charm differently. So, yeah, I think they could use a better, actually, method to charm each other. Maybe they could pick some flowers and give it to each other rather than making some uh, sounds.
Sounds.
Yeah, given the fact that their vocal folds
Mhm.
in the time was not fully developed because we had physical adaptation that during the evolution, the physical adaptation also happened. So imagine using what tone of voice to charm your partner would be different. Anyhow,
Yes.
we had the musical source as another source for
Yes.
development of language. Next is,
The social interaction source.
okay, what's this one?
Well, you see, nowadays, even we do that when we want to carry something huge or do something which needs a lot of physical effort, we make some sounds like some
Such as,
grunts.
all right, such
Exactly.
as you wanna pick
Yes.
something up. All right.
Yes.
But that
And
was very exaggerated. They don't say, oh. They say, oh.
that was
All
too
right.
heavy, maybe.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And so these sounds needed to coordinate. They needed, these sounds happened after some physical activities that several people did together. So we can come to this fact that early people lived in groups. And the reason that they lived in groups was that they wanted to have a better protection from attacks. And as a result, they had to do some things together. They had to carry maybe some lifeless animals, some giant bars of trees, and they made different noises. So these noises were known as a means of communication within that group of people that we mentioned earlier.
So we have the name of Jesperson again here
Yes.
that nicknamed this theory, I mean, the social interaction source, as yo he ho. I know in some movies I have noticed when people are pulling something heavy, they sing a song with it. All right. When they are carrying something heavy, I think we still have it in some cultures. When they are working together, people, they're working on an agricultural land. They sing songs. We are from Iran, and we know that in Iran, in the north part of Iran, there are rice lands because the climate allows people to grow rice. And people in this region of Iran, when they are planting or when they are harvesting rice, they sing songs with it. And I believe that somehow is related to this interaction, that how in the past they didn't have any tractors to do the agricultural tasks. So they used cows, all right, to plow through the land and and even for this purpose, this is from my own experience, those countries that religion has a stronger root or tradition has a stronger root, they even use some religious sounds, calling the name of the
Yes.
saints or calling the name of the god or the goddess that
Yes.
actually gives them this fertility to their land. So this social interaction gives them, as you mentioned, the ability to do an activity together. So, this united behavior, this unity allowed them to protect each other and to reach a better harvest at the end of the season. That's how I assume this social interaction source can be counted as one of the sources of language, but I think there is a however, huh?
Yes, it's not the origin still. We can think of apes and some other creatures. They also had some groups and they also had some sounds like grunts and social calls when they carried something heavy or when they did some things. So we can see that they are somehow similar, but they didn't have any development in their capacity for producing some speech and some maybe sounds.
So
More
the
than that.
language did not emerge in
No.
their little community,
Thank
although they
God.
used.
That would be scary, an ape which is speaking English, for example.
Well, you never know. Maybe the hand of evolution would work differently. I have seen movies
Yes.
about the planet of monkeys and
That was
chimps,
good.
yeah, and chimpanzees who had the ability to communicate, and gorillas who had the ability, and I don't know why in these movies they always take a revenge. They're always after revenge from humanity. Although uh, I know human has not been very kind in nature so far, so I think that's why.
Yeah, Mother Nature.
Yeah,
The
that's true.
revenge would be always there for us.
Definitely. So the next one, as another source of the origin of language, is physical adaptation source. That one I like, physical
Yes.
adaptation. So what happened to this four-legged creature who became a two-legged creature?
Yes. This was mostly about physical features. We see that our ancestors had a major transition to an upright posture. They became bipedals, which means 2 feet or two-legged, and it changed how they could breathe. We see that in four-legged creatures, the rhythm of breathing is similar and linked to the rhythm of their walking, but that's not the same for two-legged creatures. Two-legged creatures can breathe and talk and walk, but it's not linked, it's separate. And we see that one of the main reasons, as you mentioned before, is that 90% of our speaking is exhalation and 10% is inhale. So these quick in breaths help us to speak and walk at the same time.
So you mean that when uh, our ancestors could stand on their 2 feet, the adaptation started to happen.
Yes.
Here he says that around 60,000 years ago, the vocal tract of a Neanderthal suggests that some consonant like sound distinctions were possible,
Yes.
based on the fossils. All right. And later on, at 35,000 years ago, they started to find features in the fossilized skeletal structures that resemble those of modern humans. Uh, I think we are Homo sapiens sapiens, the version of the human we are. And we developed physically the ability to produce consonants and vowels, the basic features, and then automatically words, which came after them. So here, this physical adaptation has got some features. I mean, uh, versions of features found in other primates. That's what I mean. This is the however part, I think.
I'm sorry, it's still no proof for speech.
Uh-huh.
We can consider them as strong indicators of speech capacity, but still, it's not the origin of language.
What is what is the problem here that it says primates, the skeletal change? What is the problem that it cannot be the source of the origin of language? I mean, I think it has 3 sections.
Yes, I think it's related to some parts of our physical features, like the first one, teeth and lips.
Here, he says about the upright position of the teeth, and it is not slanting outward or inward. That actually gives us the ability to produce sounds like f and v. All right, this is the that goes back to the shape of our mouth and teeth and lips. Here, our lips, when I was watching a documentary the other day, I was comparing my lips with the lips of a chimp, all right, or a gorilla. Their lips are not, our lips are more controllable for us.
Yes.
When they were making sounds, all right, it seems, but scientifically it has been proved that our lips are more inter Yeah.
Intricate muscle
Yeah.
interlacing.
Interlacing, yeah, that's true. It says that human lips have much more intricate muscle interlacing than is found in other primates. And that's something that is different.
Yes.
So we have the power of the lip and we have the shape of the shape of the teeth. Here, it also mentions something
about the flexibility of lips
Mm.
that gives us the power to produce sounds like p, b,
Mhm,
and m.
That's true.
And sounds like b and m are seen in human infant. They can produce it during the first year of their life.
No matter what the language is.
No.
No matter what. The next aspect of the physical adaptation source. The next one is mouth and tongue.
Yes. Well, human mouth is small and it's easier to open and close it rapidly. So
Which helps the production of the sounds.
Exactly. Along with human tongue, which is shorter, thicker, and muscular, which helps us to produce wider range of sounds. And also the ability to close the airway in our nose. Humans are able to close the airway from their nose. It lets them to have much pressure of air in their mouth when they want to produce some specific sounds,
such as vowels.
Yes.
The shape of our mouth is also highlighted in this text. Here it says that it is also part of an extended vocal tract that has more of an L shape than a straight path from front to back in other mammals. So the L this cavity that we have here from our larynx and then pharynx and then velum,
Yes.
velum, and then after velum we have we have the uvula,
Yes.
and then we have the velum, and then we have the palate, and then we have the alveolar ridge, and then the teeth, and then so all these physical tools of articulation are set and designed in a way that allows us to produce different sounds, including consonants, vowels, diphthongs, nasal, glottal, and all other aspects that we need for that. But still, I think, as we talked about it, this is not enough to be the origin of language. Tell us about larynx and pharynx.
Another name for larynx is voice box, which dropped to a lower position as the physical development happened. We talked about it, that humans had a transition into an upward posture. Larynx is the voice box of humans, and it dropped to a lower position through the physical development. We talked about it, which was the transition of humans into an upright posture. When it happened, when humans became two-legged creatures, their head became more direct on their their spinal column, and it helped the pharynx to become appeared actually. Pharynx was created as a long cavity above the vocal folds, which helped the humans to produce sounds more clearly and actually have a wider range of sounds. But unfortunately, other creatures have almost no pharynx.
Well, we don't know if it is fortunate or unfortunate, first of all. I mean, but what I mean is this. Very clearly mentioned. I just want to add something. So this shift from horizontal position to upright position created this adaptation. I think when we are talking about other primates, such as gorillas, the distance that they have in this section of their body, all right, it is not like a human. Human has this neck, and based on the neck, we have this pharynx. Am I
Yes.
right? So the the larynx moved down. This upright
Exactly.
position gave us this chance, and this cavity was created. But there is something about choking. What was that?
Yes. There is a problem with larynx. As it got into a lower position, the chance of being choked by pieces of food got higher too.
But in children and infants, in
Yes.
infants, it's different.
Different. For children, it's different because they can actually sleep and drink and breathe at the same time. So, can you tell us why?
Well, I think it's because there's the evolution. I mean, the pharynx is not evolved completely. That's why they can drink and breathe at the same time without being choked. Uh, Interesting sentence it has here. In evolutionary terms, there must have been there must have been a big advantage in getting this extra vocal power to outweigh the potential disadvantage from an increased risk of choking to death. So it's like the evolution and the appearance of pharynx has more benefits than being choked. That's what it tries to highlight here. I mean, choking in comparison with the ability of producing language is, I think, it is incomparable. You know,
Yes.
but still, watch out not to be choked.
Yeah, sure.
You need to know Heimlich method. Heimlich method is a friend of mine knows how to do it. You put your fist below the chest, and then you push, and then the piece of food jumps out.
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
So
I have to learn that.
yeah. And interestingly, another theory here, one before the last one, I think.
Yeah, the tool making source.
It's a bit challenging.
Exactly.
Can you tell us about it?
Well, teeth and lips were formerly used only for chewing and sucking, but then we see that we use these physical features for producing speech sounds. 2 million years ago, humans developed a preferential right-handedness and became able to use their hands to make some stone crafts, stone tools. And this tool making had a really interesting evidence on brain. It showed that when humans were using their hands to make something, their brain was working at the same time in a very spontaneous way. So it was kind of related to the way they spoke or the way they used the language. Um,
I have a question.
yeah.
Here it says that physical adaptation, from this point of view, it says one function must have been superimposed on an existing anatomical feature. So we had the teeth and the lip, and the function of producing speech sounds superimposed this existing uh, feature. How does it compare with this? And teeth and lip were previously used for sucking and chewing. I mean,
Yes.
it was the basic instinct we were talking about it. And producing sound was something that was superimposed on these features that they already possessed. How
Yes.
does it compare with this aspect of tool making source?
I think it's mostly related to the human brain. Because it became lateralized. Each hemisphere of our brain has different features, different functions, and these functions of speaking, of using our mouth, our lips, our teeth for specific features, and also using our hands to make some crafts, were in the same hemisphere of our brain, which is the left hemisphere, and they were really close, so they had a connection with each other, I think.
So basically, that's from what I gathered. Correct me if I'm wrong. From what I gathered, you said that just like the example that we had with the example of producing speech sounds and the function of teeth and lip, here we had already something, tool making ability.
Yes.
All right? And producing speech sounds then again superimposed this ability. So
Yes.
the main function was something else, but it was somehow it contributed to our speaking and producing speech sounds ability. Is that true?
Yes. Exactly.
And this lateralization, now what does it mean when we say the brain and the human brain is lateralized?
I think we can think of the functions that we have in each hemisphere. For example, the function of motor movement, which involves also complex vocalization, and function of object manipulation, which means using our hands to make some objects, were totally related to each other in our brain. The part that was actually in charge for these two functions were really close to each other in our brain. Am I right?
That's true. He says they were close to each other in the left hemisphere, as you mentioned before. Here, I want to read a little, a few lines from the text, if it's okay with you.
Sure.
He says that is the area of the motor cortex that controls the muscles of the arm and hands is next to articulatory muscles of the face. So this is our left hemisphere. There is a section in the left hemisphere that's related to hands, which is tool making ability when we're talking about hands.
Exactly.
This section is close to the section that controls the muscles for producing speech sounds.
Yes.
And here it says, it may be that there was an evolutionary connection between the language using and tool using abilities of humans, and that both were involved in the development of the brain. So here I gathered this. Our brain developed and evolved gradually. So this ability of tool making evolved gradually, and automatically the ability of producing speech sounds evolved gradually. Bita, there is this museum in Tehran, the museum, the if I'm not mistaken, it's the National Museum of Tehran. There are two sections. The first section, which is on the second floor, or the first floor, and the ground floor is the historic section, and the first floor is prehistoric section. When he's actually highlighting the tool making abilities, I have seen some tools that our early ancestors, around 800,000 years ago, they made some tools, and they keep these tools. They're very basic, but they needed this cognitive ability to envision the purpose for the tool that they were making, which resulted from their need. They needed this, so they created this.
Exactly.
So they say need is the mother of invention. So they invented this tool. And something interesting I wanted to add here is that sometimes they needed two pieces of stone to create one tool for one purpose, which leads to our next topic, I think. Is that true?
Yes. Before that, can I talk about the research that was done in this area?
Definitely.
They actually got some experienced stone cutters who crafted stone tools, mostly with the method they used years ago. And they were asked to make some stone crafts and tools with their hands. And later they were asked to think silently of particular words. They considered these two actions, and they understood that the pattern of blood flow in their brain is so similar to each other when they are doing some things with their hands and when they are speaking or thinking of a word. The blood flow was so similar, which I think shows the same brain circuits between two-handed stone creation and also structure of language.
Definitely, because when the flow of the blood increases in a section of the brain, automatically the cells of that section, to my knowledge, I'm not an expert, but that's what I suppose would happen. They will be fed and they will grow strong. That's how actually the evolution happened. And the evolution later, when we were talking about the innateness hypothesis, which is the last
Yes.
one, even the diet of human
Exactly.
based it contributed to the development of language, which we'll later talk about. But could you tell us about this tool making? Here it says that when the primitive tool making, they use two pieces to put them together to make one tool for one purpose. The same thing happened in the development of language.
Exactly. In order to make a complex message, they needed to put some sounds next to each other. And later on, I think we also do that. We make some words next to each other to make a message. And that's related to the way they put some stones or some crafts to make a tool, I think.
So somehow, again, we can come to this conclusion that the cognitive ability was evolving.
Yes.
They wanted something to crack a knot,
Yes.
all right? So they needed a form of plier to press the knot, to break the shell. So they needed to join two pieces of stone or metal or anything, even two simple stones.
Yes.
When one is when they want to crack a knot. So you need one stone in hand and the one on the floor, and when you hit it, so the knot will break. Again, you need two things. All right. So this cognitive ability was growing. The need to feed themselves by different facilities, I think that somehow contributed to the emergence of language. The last but not the least,
The genetic source.
the genetic source, which I think, and according to this book, is the most probable source of the human language.
Yes.
All right. I think it's more than probable. It is so far the most accepted source of language. So what does that say?
Well, first consider a newborn baby. A newborn has a quarter of its brain formed only, and their larynx is much higher in throat. As you mentioned, it lets them to drink and also breathe simultaneously at the same time. But after a short time, we see that their larynx descends, their brain develops, and they find their upright posture, which lets them to talk and walk at the same time. On the other hand, if we consider the deaf children, we see that they have the ability to become fluent in using sign language.
And even in early ages.
Exactly. So as a result, we can say that humans are born with this capacity for language. And this is not for a specific language, it's relevant for all of them. And it's not for other creatures, it's only for humans. They have this capacity and they can use it to learn languages, to use languages as well.
So this automatic set of development, and in addition to what you said, the automatic set of development, we are talking about the physical development.
Yes.
Right? The development of the brain, the physical development of the position of the larynx, the development of the pharynx, and the vocal folds and the vocal cords and the shape of the mouth and everything else along with that. Plus the complexity of young child's language have led scholars to look for something more powerful. And that's the point. So we have the adaptation and we have the production. So scholars have started to think that there should be something bigger that what has been talked about so far as source of language. Because even deaf children can master language in early ages. Innateness hypothesis, Bita. And when we say language and the language ability, it seems to indicate that human offspring are born with a special capacity for language. What does that say?
Well, we have some genetic mutations, if I'm not wrong, and they are also related, as you mentioned, to human diet. And this change in human diet led to some developments of kind of a longer and more complex way of using the language. If we want to talk about the brain, we can say that this change in our diet led our brains to become more developed, and it changed the way that we use language, and we could function with the language and its features.
Here it says something that I think it is worthwhile to mention. The changes are believed to enhance blood flow in the brain. Now, what are the changes that enhanced blood flow in the brain? It says here that in the study of human development, a number of gene mutations have been identified that relate to the change of the diet. Now, what was the change? The change was this: increase in calorie intake.
Yes.
Increase in calorie intake, because previously they were hunter-gatherers, our early ancestors. Before the development of agriculture, they were hunter-gatherers. They were hunting and they were moving around all the time for providing for their family. But later, when they settled down, they could develop agriculture. When they developed agriculture, then they could have a better intake of food and more amount of calorie, and this possibly tied to the ability to digest starch. Starch. So you know that starch is sugar.
Yes.
It's sweet. All right. Starch in their food and a substantial increase in glucose production.
Yes.
All right. And that's what it highlighted in this text. These changes are believed to have enhanced the blood flow.
Yes.
Enhanced the blood flow that somehow created the conditions for a bigger and more complex brain.
Yes.
In comparison with the early versions of human ancestors and human ancestors and human beings. Sorry, I bit my tongue. Later, he talks about something like the investigation of origins of, if I'm not, physical adaptations. Yeah. We consider this hypothesis. We find our speculations about the origins of language moving away from fossil evidence. It's very interesting. So the more they studied this topic, they find out, or they have found out, that it is a combination of physical evolution and mental evolution, if I'm not mistaken. We consider this hypothesis. We find our speculations about origins of language moving away from fossil evidence or the physical source for basic human sounds toward analogies with how computers work and concepts taken from the study of biology and genetics.
Yes.
This is actually the highlight of this aspect. Is there anything else you want to add?
No, I think that was complete.
Yeah, well done. So this was to have a quick review. We have several theories on the evolution of language and the history of language as the origins of language. That's the name of the chapter. The first one is, we had the
divine source, yes.
And then we had the natural sound, which included two sections.
The Bow Wow theory and the Poo Poo theory.
And then we had the musical source. Remember your boyfriend were charming you with music?
Yes.
And when you were sitting around, even these days they do so. One among teenagers, they sit around fire. One of them is playing the guitar, charming other girls.
I know one person, he sang 22 poems for his girlfriend.
Wow. So, and the next one is the
Social interaction source.
and physical adaptation source.
Yes.
Included 3 sections, the physical adaptation. It was
teeth and lips, mouth and tongue, larynx and pharynx.
Thank you. The tool making source.
Remember the stone and the human brain.
Lateralization.
Yes.
And the last one.
The genetic source with the innateness hypothesis.
Well done. So far, not bad. We did our best, our listeners, and I hope you have enjoyed the presentations. It is the beginning of the project. Let's see what happens next. We will do our best to perform in a more efficient way, but do join and subscribe.
Yes, please subscribe our channel, like this video, and share it with your friends if you like it.
Thanks. Take care.
Bye.